Ocean, we have two bodies downstairs.
True crime.
Copy, two bodies downstairs.
One Ocean, three down.
Copy, three down.
We also has a gun in his hand.
Copy, has a gun in his hand.
Plunder.
Latest update,
Audio.
5 possible DOAs, 1 possible in custody.
There was a tragedy in the early morning hours yesterday. Yesterday was Monday, October 21st. And while many of us were maybe perhaps just stirring, just waking on the East Coast, over on the West Coast at around 4:44 a.m., a young boy was enacting a horrible plan to perhaps take out his entire family. It sounds like the peaceful morning hours in Falls City, Washington were shattered by gunfire. Now, we don't have a lot. I'm going to let you listen to, I've been digging through hours and hours and hours worth of police dispatch to try and figure out what happened that morning. I was amazed that it happened here in the unlikeliest of places. It's called Lake Alice in Washington State. It's described as a freshwater lake located on the north slope of the Grindstone Mountain in Chelan County, you guys can correct me, Chelan County, Washington. It seems to me, once I looked up the home, that the American dream would be lived out in this $2.4 million, 3-bedroom, 4-bathroom, 4,000 square foot home. But as you'll see the confusing scene play out over the dispatch I'm going to play, I had to just edit it down and try and listen to the important parts that dealt with this specific call. A teenage boy was eventually taken into custody and he's potentially facing murder charges. He might be tried as an adult. This was a domestic violence incident that resulted in 5 people losing their lives. As I understand it, maybe 6 people may have been shot. I'm not sure. It's hard. There's a press conference. I've linked to all the sources below to try and piece together this story as the details are slowly coming out. We don't know a lot. According to a spokesperson from the King County's Sheriff's Office, the incident indeed took place just before 5 a.m., so early, in the 7700 block of Lake Alice Road, southeast in Falls City. So indeed, the police dispatch I recovered, it begins at approximately what I can assume is 4:44 a.m. I see the time on the downloaded audio says 6:44 a.m., so I'm not sure if it's adjusting for different time zones. But you'll hear the dispatcher sending law enforcement that way to this beautiful home. Now, it's confusing at first because they think there's a male subject on the line, the reporting party supposedly saying someone else hung himself in the bathroom. What was really happening was family members were hiding in the bathroom, hiding from their brother. No one hanged themselves because, as you'll hear the audio, as cops eventually get to the scene and they start discovering all these gunshot wound victims down, they realize they have this family massacre on their hands, like the modern day Lizzie Borden, but in male form or something. It was a 15-year-old boy with a gun who turned on his own family. You'll hear them talk about an adult male with possible gunshot wounds. The dispatcher is telling responding officers to be aware. The reporting party is now saying one of the brothers shot all the family members. So obviously there were multiple people calling 911. Imagine being awakened in such a horrific surprise attack way. And was it designed that way? This young 15-year-old shooter who decided somehow to have access to some type of gun, launch a sneak attack on his family before the sun even arose? You're going to hear slight names, Benjamin and Andrew. The last name I can't make out for the life of me, which is fine anyway because this involves juveniles, so you won't hear necessarily a last name. You will hear a lot of confusion. One believed his brother may have shot himself, but then I guess that turned out not to be true. There was a sister who escaped. And she indeed said a different person, a different brother, I presume, was the shooter, and he was still alive. When she left the house, she was able to escape about a block away to a neighbor's house. So the cop is asking, do you still have the sister on the line? Does this boy have access to any vehicles? He might have escaped or something. It looks like Andrew doesn't know how to drive, says the dispatcher as she's talking to his sister, but she gets a description of this shooter. A 6 foot tall, only about 150 pounds, very slight for that height, blonde, brownish hair type of kid who doesn't know how to drive. It sounds like he's being not only diabolical and evil, but also trying to pull the wool over the eyes, perhaps, for the responding officers. Andrew's advising his hands will be something, maybe by his side. I don't know how these cops hear each other over these dispatch audios, and this one is clearer than most, this King County one. But he's claiming he has nothing in his hands except a phone, and maybe that was true. Now, they were staging and they were getting stuff set up too, so they talk about being led out to the boat launch. But once they get there, they say we have 2 bodies downstairs. Then we have 3 down. And one cop says there's a gun in his hand. Copy, he has a gun in his hand. Eventually, the cops give an update. 5 possible DOAs, 1 possible in custody. I'll let you listen to all that dispatch now, and then we'll talk about who this shooter may have been, and what could have possibly been his motivation.
I'll have you start that way. It's 7715 Lake Alice Road Southeast. Got a mail on the line saying there's a subject who hung themselves in the bathroom. 7715 Lake Alice Road Southeast. For Charlie 12 and 4 Ocean 23, be aware that one of the RP's now saying that the brother had shot at all the other family members. We're trying to confirm what's going on.
A152 Medic 104, if you're in SAC 1, please move to TAC 2. This has been upgraded to automatic weapons. Adult male, possible GSW. PD's requesting you stay to this time. Once again, please move to TAC 2.
104 and TAC 2, copy, stage.
The unit's heading to the Charlie 2 call. Looks like we have Andrew Humiston on the line. He's confirming that the brother who hung himself had shot the other family members. I believe there's 5 total, not including the RP who's hiding in a bathroom.
Copy, sir, 8, please.
We've got 8 online.
Show me attached to that, code 3. I'm coming from Sammamish.
Copy.
Correction, Medic 104, MSL 105. You're responding for automatic weapons for up to possibly 4 or 5 GSW victims and a male that's hanged himself. Stage for PD, they're still en route at this time. We have no confirmed patient information at this time other than possible multiple GSWs. I will also have Medic 103 responding. It looks like a medic on the call.
Affirm nothing significant.
What's fine,
Nothing since 2022. It looks like our RP saying that the brother's name is Benjamin Humiston. He's not able to confirm if he's 222 or not. He's saying he heard shots before, hid in the bathroom, and believes that the brother may have shot himself as well. Benjamin is 13 years old, and our RP, Andrew, is 15.
I just mentioned time 181. Yeah, let's start 2 additional engines. And at this time, let's go and start a 3rd medic until we get better confirmation on the patients.
And for all Charlie 2 units, it looks like the sister who went to the neighbor's house is now saying that our caller, Andrew, is the one who is the shooter and was alive when she left the house.
Copy, 2 more engines and a 3rd medic. 8185 from Fire Dispatch, are you responding on TAC 2?
Copy. I want to see if someone call me. Can send a few units as well, maybe.
Copy.
Dispatch 8152 staged at Lake Alice Road and 337 Place Southeast.
Ocean 23, I'll be arriving here in a minute, but I'm going to stay by for a few minutes.
1 Ocean, how far away is that neighbor's house the sister's at? If it's too close, maybe she could come down the street and meet us somewhere so we can get some intel.
Looks like it's 7841 Alice Lake Road. About a block.
Copy. He can't hold up. It looks like we have to go by the subject house to get to where she's at.
Copy.
One question, how old's the brother that's allegedly the shooter? Do we know? Maybe you can get a DL photo.
I believe he's 15. I'll send it to your screen.
Audio.
What's the total approximate patients at this point? Copy. I was just considering DMCC.
One question, I'm in the area here. We'll be staging about the 7500 block.
Plunder. True crime.
Copy.
Audio.
And one ocean, it looks like we have 2 CNTs that are currently in service. Do you want me to see if we can monitor head this way?
Yeah, let's get everybody started till we figure out what we have here.
Copy.
And one question, do we still have a caller on the line?
True crime.
Affirm.
Audio.
And sister saying he's the one that did the shooting, correct?
Affirm.
And for the remaining units that are en route to the medic weapons call that have not already got the short, up to 4 possible GSW victims and 1 hanging victim at this time.
True crime.
Stage
Audio.
location is currently 37th and Lake Alice.
Okay, once we get the troops rallied here, maybe we'll see if we can talk him to coming outside.
Copy.
And one question, I know it's a ways out, but maybe someone could start with a shield from some damage. We got a few there. And one question, if we still have the sister on the line, see if he has access to any vehicles in case he tries to leave.
Copy. And it looks like Andrew doesn't know how to drive.
Sure, let's come.
And one ocean, Andrew doesn't know how to drive.
True crime.
But there should be a gray Honda Odyssey and a gray Toyota Corolla in the driveway. And it looks like the neighbor, his wife, I guess, is walking to their house, the 7841, in a black shirt, black shorts, and carrying a medic bag.
Hello. True crime.
He's
Audio.
going to the target house? Tell him not to, do not do that.
I have their walking to their house, the 7841, but I'm confirming.
Got it.
422, brother was the one that was hanging.
For Charlie 12, most of that was broken, but I believe the firearm is going to be with our caller, Andrew. He was reporting his brother hung himself.
And that's supposed to be our suspect, right?
True
Affirm.
crime. Audio.
Anderson 2-3, can you give us a full description of our suspect?
23, believe the caller and the suspect is going to be Andrew Humiston. It's a 15-year-old male, about 6 foot, 150, white, looks like blonde, brownish hair.
Audio.
And it sounds like the caller just hung up on our call receiver. Andrew's advising that his hands will be in plain sight, and he's got nothing except a phone in his hand. Copy approaching the house.
And all units, 8152 is leading
Plunder.
leading us to the boat launch.
Audio.
We've moved our staging forward to the boat launch. Can we possibly get one deputy to report to our command post?
Announcements things at house.
Plunder.
We have 2 bodies downstairs.
Audio.
Copy 2 bodies downstairs.
One ocean, 3 down.
Copy 3 down.
We also have the gun in his hand.
Copy has a gun in his hand.
Plunder.
Latest update,
Audio.
5 possible DOAs, 1 possible in custody.
I just got a phone number 177 at MCU. He's just requesting any detectives that are
Plunder.
en route or on scene stay new. It's just the same processing.
Received.
Okay, I hope you were able to hear all that. Dispatch can be so dicey, so confusing. Of course, law enforcement officers are trying to do their best. They're arriving at the scene and getting all this conflicting information. They don't know what they're walking into. Just like the point where they were confused. They were confused about whether or not the neighbor was actually walking into the place where the shootings happened. But it sounded like she was walking into her own home. Neighbors were trying to help. A peaceful community. People are not used to this. According to online reports, everything we can find, all these children were homeschooled. One woman wrote on the Washington Homeschool Organization's post on Facebook, "Our friend went to a co-op with them, and yes, it was a homeschooling family." So it's the same thing that Como News reports. Multiple neighbors who knew the children, where they lived in the neighborhood, say all the children were homeschooled. And they just talk about the younger children especially. We don't know the ages. The presser didn't give us a ton of information. Of course, this just happened yesterday. They were trying to figure out what they had on their hands. He's a juvenile shooter, but he might be charged as an adult, so I don't know how that will work in terms of his court appearances. He's supposed to be in court today. Today is Tuesday, October 22nd. But one neighbor, Cameron Dorer, who lives in the area, said the younger kids, especially the sweetest children, so polite, homeschooled, and it's just unfathomable. The parents probably thought they were doing the right thing by homeschooling their children, protecting them from these sort of bad things that happen to the world, and here it happens right from within. I don't even know what to think, Cameron said. Indeed. Now I know the homeschooling organizations are saying, look, don't use this shooting or this massacre as an attack on homeschooling. But I see what this person means in terms of maybe these parents, whomever they are, it's hard to find who these people are. Maybe more information will come out. But maybe these parents thought, whoa, schools out there are so dangerous, bad influences, school shootings can happen. I don't know what can happen. Let's homeschool all our children in this beautiful lake home. And look what happens. Now, according to multiple paramedics and first responders who spoke to KIRO 7 News' Gary Horcher, 5 people, including 2 adults and 3 teenagers, were killed. This is saying 3 teenagers were killed and 2 adults were killed, and that does not include the shooter. So I don't really know how large this family is, because there's a post I see from the Journal 425, and they're calling it the Fall City Massacre. 15-year-old shoots 6 family members, 5 dead. Now, I'm not sure. I believe this journal is out of Fall City, Washington, perhaps. A family of 7 was reduced to 2 yesterday, after a 15-year-old reportedly shot all 6 of his live-in family members, killing 5 and wounding 1. Whoa, that's just horrible. So it is the early stages. They're calling it a story that is likely to become fodder for Netflix true crime docuseries and Amityville-style paranormal horror lore. So I'll link to the Journal 425 below, especially if they're a local resource. That's what I've been looking for, just people there. Now, 1 boy was taken into custody. We hear that update in the dispatch, and he remains at the King County Juvenile Detention Center. It's saying King County prosecutors noted that this teenage boy doesn't have any prior criminal history in King County, and it's too early in the process to say for sure if he'll be charged as an adult. We don't know. There's a lot we need to know. And so this story is so tight-lipped, and sometimes King County can be very tight-lipped. You guys might remember the Chad Wheeler case. We got that body cam footage from King County where Chad Wheeler nearly killed his girlfriend, Aaliyah, and thank God she survived. That was a huge story, but yeah, getting information out of King County, at some point it felt like pulling teeth, but I hope we can see the process here. This is so sad. No one should come against homeschooling, and if anything, like some of the homeschooling Facebook posts are saying, it's okay to take a break. It's okay to, I guess switch things up a little bit. Some people might be very anti-homeschooling. Some people might really believe it's a great thing so you can influence your children and with the education you want. Sometimes homeschooled kids are much better educated if they have a great curriculum and if they have a great teacher at home who is literally teaching them. And then other people are against homeschooling. I know personally it's something I never could do. I didn't feel gifted to do. Of course, I was able to stay home with my kids, thank God. But then when it was time to go to public school or nursery school, whatever you call it, preschool, then they were able to do that. But God bless the people who are able to homeschool and stick with the curriculum and keep children engaged and even travel with them and teach them things. So I can understand, I can see a case for both. But already I see some people are kind of trying to put the puzzle pieces together, which we just don't have yet. We don't know why this boy did what he did. Now it's saying he's got nothing but a phone in his hand at one point. But then when you get down closer, you realize the boy does have something in his hand. Well, someone has a gun in his hand, and that's what's hard to decipher. there's a point where the cop is warning another cop that someone has a gun in his hands. There's a gun in his hand. Copy, he has a gun in his hand. And that's why I don't know if it's the shooter who was being deceptive and truly had a gun in his hand, but they were able to take him into custody, I'm assuming, without much problems. At least we don't know. They didn't have to take him down and end his life like he did, obviously, his family members. But I don't know if they meant one of the victims had a gun in his hand. So this is where it's getting confusing, and we do need to let the investigation play out, because I don't understand who had the gun in his hand. The cop sounded pretty calm when he said that, so I don't know if the shooter was coming out like, I only have a phone in my hand, and it ended up really being a gun and he was trying to trick them, or were they looking at one of the victims? Did any of the victims try and fight back? And did one of the brothers, for example, grab a family gun, a different gun, and try and fight back, but he wasn't able to? And is that the one who had the gun in his hand? That's why it's very difficult trying to decipher police dispatch, because as you can tell, they were confused too, just talking in the beginning to someone hiding, and they thought they said someone was hanging. So it can get confusing, but I've been digging into trying to figure out who this was, and of course we always ask why. We might never know why, but I have a feeling because of the heinous nature of this horrible crime, we will end up getting more details. Maybe we'll never see his mugshot, or we might not be able to see him in court. There are ways they can just show only the backside of a person or only hear his voice when it's a juvenile. We don't know yet, but will we ever learn why? Why would this young boy do that to his family, to his entire family? And thank God his sister escaped, but people are saying, oh my goodness, his sister, imagine escaping and your entire family has been taken out by your brother. And how old is she? It sounds like all the 3 children were teenagers. And that's another thing. When do you stop homeschooling? I don't even know that. I was thinking about that. Like I was thinking 18, or like me, I graduated. I was able, thank the Lord, to graduate early. I graduated from high school at 16 and went off to college. Whether I was mature enough, nah, that's a whole nother story. But I'm thinking teenagers, when do you, in essence, graduate? I guess like Kylie Rodney, I think of her, the girl in California who accidentally lost her life driving into water. I believe she was homeschooled and she was able to kind of graduate early and be ready for college around 16 or 17. So I don't know. This 15-year-old, what made him snap and just turn his ire on his parents? I'm reminded of the Menendez brothers case, since that case is so hot and heavy in the news now. And what will happen to them? Will they be resentenced? Will they just get time served and be able to come out? And that's why you want to know the details. Of course, there's no justification for taking out your whole family. You just want to know what would make a young boy do such a horrific thing. I'm sure before long, within days perhaps, we'll start seeing at least the parents' names, and maybe we'll get footage of him in court, and maybe we'll start learning much more. I couldn't even find him on King County's website, couldn't find him in the juvie section. It's just hard because you're dealing with very limited information, but I believe we'll start hearing a lot more about this case. So sad. 2 Corinthians 4:18. So we look not at the things which are seen, but at the things which are unseen. For the things which are visible are temporal, just brief and fleeting, but the things which are invisible are everlasting and imperishable. Whew, you gotta pray for that surviving girl so much. The neighbors are saying, like neighbor Lynn Trowen, she told Fox, I saw the children in the driveway yesterday afternoon. She said it had been quiet at the scene until around 4 p.m. when the family came home, so I'm assuming that must have been Sunday, with one of the boys heard playing piano in the garage. I'm shocked, she continued. I kept bursting into tears, she said. I keep seeing the faces of the children. I don't know the details or anything, but I know something terrible has happened there. Another neighbor told reporters about the kids being so sweet and polite. There was no significant confrontation with the young man that was taken into custody. What happened had happened, it was done. There was no threat to the public. Talk about tragedy. Neighbors said the unnamed parents often kept to themselves, and the children were homeschooled but friendly and socialized in the community. So that's good. The kids were able to socialize with others in the community, and the parents kept to themselves. It's just leading to so many questions. I'm sure with all these hotbed topics like familicide, I'm sure it's still called that, I'm assuming, when a child performs the murders. With homeschooling, with this beautiful home, a rich family. I'm wondering, were they a Christian family? It doesn't mean they were, but a certain portion of Christian families sometimes decide to homeschool their kids. A beautiful picturesque area that is just a dichotomy to such a horrible tragedy, which we know can happen anywhere, but people really seem to hone in on and question why when it happens somewhere like this. And again, we just pray. We pray, we pray, we pray. We pray for the family. Like the Washington Homeschool Organization posted, I really only have one thing to say. Check in on each other. See how folks in your area are doing. Make sure they're well. Reach out if you're not doing well. That's difficult because obviously the young man was troubled. To perform an action like this, you have to be troubled. But the question is, what made him explode? Were there deep, dark secrets going on in the home? That's the thing. People never know what's going on behind closed doors. And that's what got me. This is the type of home some people strive for. You strive for a gorgeous home on the lake, on a boat. I mean, these windows, just beautiful scenario, beautiful scenery. You almost impute a certain value or lifestyle when you see a home like that. You can just imagine, oh, what happy family lives there? And do they have friends? Do they have parties? Do they just keep to themselves and watch movies and movie night? And it could be something so different, so much more sinister than what it appears. This American dream, sometimes it's just a fallacy. Sometimes it's fake. And that's why I end up being more grateful for my messy, kind of dirty, sometimes embarrassing home. It's just sad when you think of the loss of life. I don't know. All I can do is pray for that girl who survived. Boy, just pray she has other family members she can reach out to and live with, and the Lord can help her and heal her through this tragedy. But more than anything, I think a lot of people we're just digging for more answers. So, what will we get? What will we hear beyond this 911 dispatch audio? We will see. I will keep digging into this case as well as other cases, but thank you so much for watching and listening. Take care.